For a moment, the room was quiet again, but not the same silence as before. This one felt alive, like something was changing between them. Two broken beings, finding strength in each other's presence. That night, as the fire burned low, Arya spoke again. "When I was small," she said softly, "I used to watch the stars from my city's dome. I always wondered if anyone out there was kind. My people said kindness was weakness. But I wanted to believe it wasn't." Ethan listened quietly. "Maybe you were right," he said. "Maybe kindness is what keeps us alive." Arya smiled faintly. Her eyes glowed in the dim light, soft and beautiful, like distant stars reflecting hope. For the first time since the war began, Ethan felt peace. Not safety, not victory, just peace. And somewhere deep inside, both of them began to feel something neither had known before. Something human. Days passed slowly in the small cabin. Outside, the snow never seemed to stop. The world was quiet and white, and it felt like the war had vanished from Earth. But Ethan knew peace never lasted long, not here, not now. Inside, Arya was changing. Her strength was returning, though she still couldn't move her legs. Every morning, Ethan helped her sit up, stretch, and try to move her arms. It was painful for her, but she never complained. She only looked at him with those strange glowing eyes, full of determination. One morning, Ethan found her trying to hold a spoon. Her hands trembled as she lifted it toward a bowl of soup he had made. Half of it spilled before she reached her mouth. He moved closer, ready to help, but she shook her head. "I can do it," she said softly. He smiled a little and nodded. "All right, Arya, take your time." It took her 10 minutes to finish one small bowl, but she did it. When she set the spoon down, her face showed exhaustion and pride. Ethan clapped once, softly. "Not bad," he said with a grin. "You're tougher than I thought." Her lips curved into a small smile. "I told you. I'm not weak," he chuckled. "Guess you proved that." Later, he helped her sit near the window. The sun was low in the sky, glowing orange through the snow clouds. Arya looked uneasy, but this time she didn't ask him to close the curtains. The light touched her face, and her skin glowed faintly, beautiful and strange. Ethan noticed. "See, the light's not so bad." She looked at her hands. "It feels different now. Warm. That's what it's supposed to feel like," he said. Arya tilted her head. "Does it feel the same for you?" He thought for a moment. "Sometimes. But mostly, I think I stopped noticing it. Too many bad days make you forget small things." She was silent for a while, watching him carefully. "You forget what warmth feels like," she said softly. "That's how you survive." Ethan looked at her, surprised. Her words hit him deeper than he expected. He didn't reply. He didn't have to. Later that night, a storm began again. The wind roared around the cabin, making the window shake. Ethan added more wood to the fire and checked the door twice. He had learned not to trust silence and not to trust peace. Arya was awake, staring at the fire. "Ethan," she said quietly, "do humans dream?" He sat down near her. "Sometimes." "Why?" "Because I think I did," she whispered. "I saw my home, the silver skies, the crystal towers, and I saw my father. He used to tell me that one day I'd fly our ships." Her voice trembled. "But he didn't mean this. He didn't mean war." Ethan looked at her gently. "War changes everyone, even those who don't want to fight." She nodded. "On my world, they said emotion was weakness. But I think maybe feeling is what makes us alive." He smiled faintly. "Now you sound human." She looked at him, and for the first time, she didn't seem afraid of that word. Hours passed. The storm grew louder. Ethan was about to rest when he heard something, a low hum, far away but growing. He stood and walked to the window. Through the snow, faint lights moved in the distance, blue lights, hovering silently in the sky. Arya saw his face and knew before he said a word. "They're searching," she whispered. "My people. They've come back." Ethan clenched his jaw. "For you." She nodded slowly. "Maybe to erase what they left behind." He looked back at her, then at the glowing sky. "Then we'll have to stay hidden." Arya's eyes filled with fear. You don't understand. They don't forgive betrayal. They'll destroy anything near me, including you. He didn't answer right away. He just checked his old rifle and moved to the door, staring out at the distant lights. Then they'll have to find me first. Arya watched him in silence. No one had ever stood for her before. Not her people. Not anyone. She felt something strange, something she had no word for. It wasn't just fear or gratitude. It was trust. When Ethan returned to the fire, she whispered, "Why do you risk everything for me?" He sat beside her, the firelight flickering across his tired face. "Because you remind me what it means to care," he said. "And because you deserve a chance." Arya looked at him, her eyes soft and glowing. "You're not like the others." He smiled slightly. "Maybe that's a good thing." The night stretched on. Outside, the storm hid the sky, and the alien searchlights vanished beyond the horizon. Inside, the two of them sat close to the fire, two souls from different worlds, sharing the same fragile warmth, and in that quiet cabin, as the flames danced and the wind howled beyond the walls, something unspoken began to grow between them. Something neither war nor fear could erase. It wasn't pity. It wasn't duty. It was the first spark of something rare in both their worlds. Human connection. Morning came with an uneasy silence. The storm had ended, but something in the air felt wrong. Too still, too quiet. Ethan stepped outside, scanning the frozen hills. The tracks from last night's storm were gone, but in the distance, he could see faint blue glows in the sky. Not stars, but machines. The aliens were still searching. He returned inside, where Arya sat near the fire. Her eyes followed him as he shut the door quickly. "They're still out there," he said. "I know," she whispered. "I can feel them, feel them." Ethan asked, frowning. Arya touched the small crystal embedded near her collarbone. It pulsed with a faint blue light. "They put a beacon inside me. It connects me to the fleet, or it did. When I was left behind, it weakened. But now, they've found the signal again." Ethan's stomach sank. "Can you turn it off?" She shook her head. "It's part of me. I'd die if it's removed." He paced the floor, thinking fast. "Then we need to hide that signal somehow. If they lock onto it, they'll find this cabin in minutes." Arya looked scared. "You should leave. You can still get away." Ethan stopped walking. "And leave you here to die?" "No chance." She opened her mouth to argue, but his expression stopped her. He wasn't bluffing. He'd already made his choice, and she was part of it now. Ethan went to the small workbench near the wall. He started searching through his supplies, wires, old radio parts, bits of metal from the alien ship he had scavenged earlier. "If I can build something that scrambles signals, maybe it'll confuse them," he muttered. Arya watched him curiously. "You understand technology." "Not alien tech," he admitted, "but I know how to break human machines." "Same idea." He worked for hours, his hands shaking from the cold. Arya helped as best she could, pointing out symbols or wires that looked familiar. Her voice grew weaker as time passed, but she didn't stop helping. They were both running out of time, and they knew it by evening. Ethan had built something small, a glowing device made of alien metal and broken human electronics. "If this works," he said, "it'll block their scanners for a while." He placed it near her beacon, and for a moment, the air shimmered faintly. The blue glow on her collar faded until it was barely visible. "It worked," she whispered, her voice full of disbelief. "Ethan, it's working." He smiled, sitting back. "Good. Now we buy ourselves some time." She looked at him quietly. "You risked everything for this." "Guess I'm bad at letting people die," he said. She gave a soft laugh, one that almost sounded human. "You could have been one of us," he smirked. "Don't tell anyone."
Snow fell silently on the old world. The cities were quiet, their lights fading one by one as the war in the skies came to an end. It wasn't a human war this time, and it was something far stranger. The people had seen fire rain down from above, ships cutting through clouds like knives, and creatures that did not belong to Earth. For months, humans fought something they could not understand. The invaders were not monsters, not exactly. They looked like people, but their skin glowed faint blue and their eyes shimmered like stars. No one knew what they wanted, only that they came in silence and destroyed what they touched. The world broke apart piece by piece. Miles away from the destroyed cities, a man named Ethan walked through the snow. He had lost everything, his home, his family, and even his faith in humanity. He was not a soldier anymore, just a survivor moving through ruins and ashes. The only sound around him was the wind and the faint crackle of burning metal from a crashed alien ship in the distance. He didn't plan to go near it. He had seen what those ships could do, but something inside him, curiosity, maybe guilt, pulled him closer. The wreck was half buried in ice, still glowing faintly from the inside. Strange symbols flickered across the broken hull like a heartbeat that refused to stop. Ethan raised his old flashlight. Inside he saw shadows, twisted metal, shattered glass, and silence. Then he heard it, a soft sound like a faint cry. It wasn't human. It was something weak, broken, but still alive. He followed the sound, stepping over debris until his light fell on someone. She was sitting against the wall, covered in frost, her body shaking. Her skin was pale blue, marked with faint glowing lines. Long white hair clung to her shoulders, and her eyes, half open, looked terrified and lost. She wasn't a monster. She was a girl, an alien girl. Her legs were twisted at an unnatural angle. When she tried to move, she couldn't. Her breathing was shallow, and she looked at him like she was seeing a ghost. Ethan froze. Every instinct told him to run. She was the enemy. Her kind had killed millions, but she didn't look like a killer. She looked human, broken, helpless. She tried to speak, but her voice came out like a whisper. The translator device on her collar flickered, turning her strange sounds into weak, trembling words. Please. Don't hurt me. Ethan didn't move. The wind howled through the wreck, carrying her words away. He lowered his flashlight slowly and took a step closer. I'm not going to hurt you, he said, though he wasn't sure if he meant it. The girl blinked slowly, her eyes full of pain. They left me, she said. My people. They left me here. I can't move. Ethan knelt beside her. Her body was shaking violently now, every breath looking like it could be her last. She was freezing. He didn't understand why, but he took off his jacket and wrapped it around her. Her glowing skin dimmed slightly under the fabric. You're freezing, he murmured. I can't feel my legs, she whispered. They broke them. They said I was weak. I couldn't fight. Ethan stared at her in disbelief. Your own people did that to you? She closed her eyes. They said I was human inside. That sentence hit him harder than he expected. Something in her voice, whether sadness, fear, or truth, made his anger fade. The war, the death, the loss, suddenly felt smaller compared to the single being shivering in front of him. He looked around. The ship was falling apart, ice forming on every surface. If he stayed, they'd both die. He sighed, tightening the jacket around her. You're coming with me, he said quietly. She shook her head weakly. You can't. They'll kill you if they find me. I don't care, he said, his tone sharp now. You're not dying here. He found a piece of wreckage that looked like part of a seat and used it as a makeshift sled. Carefully, he lifted her. She was lighter than he expected, fragile, like she might break if he wasn't careful. She gasped in pain but didn't resist. Outside, the storm had grown worse. The wind hit his face like knives, but he didn't stop. Step by step, he pulled her through the snow toward the small cabin he had been staying in, the last safe place he knew. By the time they reached it, night had fallen. He pushed open the door, the warm light spilling out. He placed her on an old couch near the fireplace. She looked around with tired eyes as if she didn't believe she was safe. Ethan started the fire and watched as the warmth touched her face. Her eyes softened, glowing faintly in the orange light. Why did you save me? She asked, her voice almost a whisper. He didn't have an answer. Maybe it was pity. Maybe it was something else, a feeling he hadn't known in years. Humanity. Because no one else would, he said finally. Outside, the snow kept falling, covering the wreck of the alien ship, erasing the signs of war. Inside, in that small, quiet cabin, the most unlikely bond had begun, between a broken alien girl and a human who had lost everything. Neither of them knew it yet, but what started that night would change both their worlds forever. When morning came, the storm had stopped. The world outside the cabin was white and silent again, like nothing had ever happened. Ethan sat near the fire, staring at the flames. He hadn't slept all night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the alien girl's face, pale, fragile, and full of quiet pain. She was still asleep on the couch, her breathing soft but uneven. The glow under her skin had faded to a faint shimmer. He had wrapped her legs in bandages, though he wasn't sure if that was how her kind healed. He just hoped it helped. When she finally opened her eyes, she looked frightened. Her gaze jumped from the walls to the windows, then back to Ethan. For a moment, she didn't speak. She just looked at him like she was unsure if this was real. "You're safe here," Ethan said quietly. "No one's coming." Her voice was weak but clear. "You shouldn't have brought me here," he frowned. "You would have died out there." She looked away. "That would have been easier." Her words cut through the quiet room like ice. Ethan didn't understand her or her world, but he could feel her pain. He got up and poured warm water into a cup, then offered it to her. She hesitated before taking it, her fingers trembling slightly as they touched his. "What's your name?" he asked. She stared at the fire for a long time. "Arya," she finally said. He nodded slowly. "I'm Ethan." She gave a small, tired smile. "That sounds human," he chuckled softly. "That's because it is." For the first time, she almost laughed, a small, broken sound that faded quickly. But it was something. Then silence again. Only the crackling fire filled the air. Ethan sat down across from her. "Why did your people leave you?" he asked, his voice careful, her eyes darkened. "Because I was different. I was born weak. They said I felt too much, cared too much. They called it a sickness, human emotion." She looked at her hands as if they were foreign to her. "They said it would destroy me. And them." Ethan didn't know what to say. He had seen war, cruelty, and loss, but hearing that even another species feared compassion, it made him realize how alike they were after all. "They said humans were dangerous," she continued softly. "That you destroy everything you love. That you burn your own world." Ethan looked into the fire again. "They're not wrong," he admitted. "We've done terrible things. But sometimes, we save what no one else will." Arya's eyes met his. There was something in that look, confusion, maybe hope. She wanted to believe him, but fear held her back. When the sunlight touched her skin through the window, she flinched and turned her face away. Ethan noticed. "You okay?" he asked. "I don't like the light," she whispered. "It burns." Ethan quickly pulled the curtains, dimming the room. "Better?" She nodded. "Our world has no sun like yours. We live in shadow under blue storms. The light here feels wrong." He sat down beside her, keeping a careful distance. "You'll get used to it," he said softly. Arya's eyes followed him. "Why do you help me, Ethan?" "You could have left me there," he sighed. "Because I've seen enough dying. I'm tired of losing people." Something in his voice made her quiet. She studied his face, the way his eyes looked tired but kind. It was the first human face she had seen up close, not full of fear, not anger, just sadness. Later that day, Ethan went outside to gather wood. The cold air bit his skin, but he worked fast. From the window, Arya watched him, the way he moved, the way his breath showed in the freezing air. He looked fragile compared to her kind, but there was strength in his simplicity. When he came back, he found her trying to move her hands. They trembled with effort. "You should rest," he said. "I have to try," she whispered. "If I don't, I'll never walk again." He hesitated, then helped her sit up a little. "Here," he said gently, placing his hands behind her back to steady her. She winced but didn't stop. Her face twisted with pain, but her eyes stayed determined. "You're stubborn," Ethan said, almost smiling. She breathed hard. "Maybe I learned it from you." That night they ate together in silence, watching the fire. For the first time, Arya looked peaceful. Her glowing eyes reflected the light, soft and full of thought. "When I left my world," she said quietly, "I thought humans were cruel. That you only took, never gave, but you're different." Ethan poked the fire with a stick. "Most people are just scared, Arya. Fear makes them cruel. But not all of us forget what it means to care." Arya nodded slowly. "On my world, they erased emotions from our kind. They said it made us perfect soldiers. But I think they only made themselves empty." She paused, looking at her trembling hands. "When I saw you in the ship, I thought you would end me. But you didn't. You gave me warmth. You gave me something I thought didn't exist." Ethan looked at her. "What's that?" "Hope," she said softly. The word lingered in the air. Ethan didn't respond, but his expression softened. Hope was something he thought he'd lost long ago, yet somehow this alien girl reminded him what it felt like. Outside, a faint rumble echoed across the valley. Arya's eyes widened. "They're close again," she said. "I can feel the engines." Ethan rushed to the window. In the far distance, glowing shapes hovered above the snow, alien ships scanning beams sweeping the ground. "We have to move," he said. Arya tried to sit up, but her legs wouldn't move. "I can't walk," she said, frustration in her voice. Ethan grabbed a blanket and wrapped her in it, lifting her carefully into his arms. "Then I'll carry you." "You can't outrun them," she said. "They'll see us." "Not if we move through the forest," he replied. "Their scanners can't read through thick trees." She looked at him, terrified. "Ethan, they'll kill you." He met her gaze. "Then they'll have to catch me first." He opened the cabin door. The wind hit hard, cold and sharp, but he didn't hesitate. With Arya in his arms, he stepped into the dark woods. The snow crunched under his boots as he moved fast, his breath fogging in the freezing air. Behind them, the faint blue lights grew brighter, closer. Arya pressed her face against his shoulder, whispering, "I don't want to lose you." "You won't," he said quietly, his voice steady. "Not while I'm breathing." For a long time there was only the sound of wind and the steady rhythm of his steps. Then far above, a deep echoing hum filled the air, the sound of alien ships searching the ground. Ethan didn't stop. He kept walking, his arms tight around her. The forest swallowed them in darkness, the blue lights fading behind the snow-laden trees. For the first time since the war began, the hunter became the hunted, and a human risked his life to save what the universe had abandoned. The forest was endless. Ethan's legs ached, but he didn't stop. The night stretched long, the only sound their breathing and the crunch of snow beneath his boots. Arya stayed quiet in his arms, her faint blue glow hidden under the blanket. Each breath she took came out weak and shallow, but she never asked him to stop. By dawn, the snow had thinned. In the distance, Ethan saw faint smoke rising from behind a ridge. Human smoke, not alien light. Hope stirred in his chest. Maybe there were still survivors. Maybe they weren't alone anymore. He carried her through the trees until they reached the ridge. Below, half buried under ice and debris, stood a small human outpost. Metal walls, antennas, and a single watchtower. A flag hung torn above it, but it was human. Ethan let out a shaky breath. "We made it," he whispered. Arya looked at the outpost with worry. "Humans, will they help?" Ethan nodded slowly. "They'll help. They have to." He made his way down the hill, waving a piece of cloth as he approached. A siren wailed from the tower. Within seconds, 2 armed guards appeared from behind sandbags, weapons pointed straight at him. "Stop right there," one shouted. "Identify yourself." Ethan stopped, lifting his free hand. "Name's Ethan Ward. Former resistance medic." "I'm not armed." The guards exchanged looks. One of them moved closer, his eyes narrowing when he saw the faint blue glow beneath the blanket. "What's that?" he demanded. Ethan hesitated. "She's injured, she's—" "Not a threat." The guard stepped forward and pulled the blanket back slightly. When he saw Arya's glowing skin and silver hair, he froze. "It's one of them," he yelled, aiming his rifle. Ethan stepped in front of her instantly. "Wait, she's not like the others. She needs help." The second guard raised his weapon too. "Back away, sir. That thing's the reason half this planet's dead." Arya's eyes widened with fear. She whispered, "Ethan, it's all right." "Leave me." "Not a chance," he said firmly. The guards hesitated. Finally, a voice came from behind them, calm, older, and full of command. "Lower your weapons." A woman stepped out from the shadows. She wore a dark coat, her face lined with scars and wisdom. "I'm Commander Reeves," she said. "If you're telling the truth, come inside. But if she's a danger, you'll both answer for it." Ethan nodded. "I'll take that risk." Inside, the outpost was small but alive, a few humans moving between machines, repairing what they could. When they saw Arya, the room went silent. Whispers spread like fire. "It's an alien. Why's she here? He brought one of them? Has he lost his mind?" Commander Reeves led them to the infirmary. Ethan gently placed Arya on a bed, his hands trembling from exhaustion. Reeves looked down at the girl, then at him. "You've got guts bringing her here," she said. "Or maybe just a death wish." "She's not the enemy," Ethan said. "Her people left her to die. She's one of us now. Reeves frowned. One of us? Look around, soldier. We barely have enough food for our own. Ethan stood straight. Then take mine, that made her pause. The room was quiet again, save for the faint hum of old machines. Arya opened her eyes. Her voice was weak but steady. I don't want to hurt anyone. I only want to live. Reeves studied her for a long moment. If you lie to me, alien, I'll end this quick. Arya nodded slowly. I understand, Reeves sighed.
Keep her here!
But if anything strange happens, I'll hold you responsible, Ethan. Fair enough, he said. That night, Ethan sat beside Arya's bed as she slept. The outpost lights flickered. From outside came the distant sound of wind scraping against metal. The people avoided the room, afraid to even look at her. When Arya woke, her eyes met his. They hate me, she said softly. They're scared, he replied. Fear makes people do stupid things, she smiled sadly. On my world, they feared emotions. On yours, they fear hearts. Ethan couldn't help but smile a little. Then maybe both our worlds need fixing. For a few moments, there was peace. But then the ground shook, faintly at first, then harder. An alarm blared. Reeves rushed into the room. They found us, she shouted. Alien ships inbound. Ethan looked at Arya. The beacon? Her eyes widened. It must have reactivated. They're coming for me. Then we'll make sure they don't get you, Ethan said, grabbing his rifle. Arya reached for his hand. Ethan, if they come, you must leave me. He shook his head. Not happening. Outside, blue lights filled the dark sky once more. The war wasn't over. It had just found them again. And this time the line between human and alien was about to be tested. The ground trembled as alien ships broke through the clouds. Their blue lights flashed across the snow, cutting through the night like blades. The outpost sirens wailed. Soldiers ran to their stations, shouting orders over the chaos. Ethan stood at the doorway of the infirmary, rifle in hand. The sound of engines filled the air, deep and heavy, shaking the metal walls. Arya tried to sit up, her face pale with fear. Ethan, they're coming for me, she said. You have to go. He turned to her. I'm not leaving you. She shook her head, desperate. If they find me here, they'll destroy everything. You'll die because of me. Ethan knelt beside her, gripping her hand. Then I'll die knowing I did the right thing. Outside, Commander Reeves shouted orders. All units, hold positions. Don't let them breach the perimeter. Laser fire lit up the sky. Blue bolts and red flares collided, burning bright against the snow. Ethan looked at Arya. Can you still feel your people? Yes, she whispered. They're close. Their minds, cold, silent, without feeling. Can you talk to them? Stop them somehow? She looked down, tears forming in her glowing eyes. No. They erased that part of me when they abandoned me. He brushed a strand of silver hair from her face. Then maybe there's another way. He ran to the comm room where Reeves was trying to reach the main defense grid. We can't hold them off for long, she said. Their weapons cut through everything. Ethan's eyes darted to the alien technology on the table, parts they had salvaged from wrecks. An idea formed in his mind. What if we send them a signal? Reeves frowned. What kind of signal? One that makes them think she's dead, he said. If they believe they've already destroyed her, maybe they'll stop. Reeves stared at him. That's risky, and if it fails, it's our only chance, Ethan said firmly. Reeves hesitated, then nodded. Do it! Ethan ran back to Arya, carrying a small device and a mix of human radio and alien parts. He set it near her beacon. This will mimic your signal and then burn it out. It'll look like your life force ended, her eyes widened. But if you do that, I'll disappear to them forever. I'll never be able to go home. Ethan looked at her softly. Home isn't always where you're born. Sometimes it's where someone cares enough to stay. Tears shimmered in her glowing eyes. You don't have to do this. He smiled faintly. Yes, I do. He activated the device. A low hum filled the air. Blue light spread from the beacon, pulsing faster and faster. Outside, the alien ships slowed, their scanners sweeping wildly as if searching for something they couldn't find. Arya gasped, feeling the link inside her break. Her body shivered, her eyes glowing brighter for a moment, then dimming softly. It's done, she whispered. They can't find me now, Ethan exhaled in relief. Then we're safe, but safety came too late. A massive explosion ripped through the eastern wall. The shockwave threw them both to the floor. Fire and smoke filled the air. Reeves shouted from outside, They've breached the defenses. Ethan coughed, pulling Arya close. The outpost was burning. He looked at her, weak, fragile, but alive. Can you move? She tried, but her legs wouldn't respond. No. He lifted her again, carrying her through the flames. The corridor shook as another blast hit. They reached the snow outside, the cold biting his skin, the sky glowing blue from the ships above. A single alien drone hovered overhead, aiming its weapon. Arya looked up with tears. They'll kill you. Ethan raised his rifle. Not if I can help it. Before the drone fired, a bright beam from the outpost's last cannon struck it, blowing it apart. The sky flashed white and then silence. The ships began to retreat. One by one, their lights vanished into the clouds. The sky cleared. The war machines were gone. Arya blinked in disbelief. They're leaving. Ethan smiled weakly, sinking to one knee, exhausted. Told you we'd make it. Commander Reeves and the soldiers came running through the smoke. When they saw the alien ships retreating, they stopped, staring in awe. Reeves looked at Ethan and the girl beside him. What did you do? Ethan looked at Arya. We gave them a reason to stop fighting. Reeves nodded slowly. Maybe that's what we've been missing all along, a reason. The survivors helped Arya into the outpost again. For the first time, no one looked at her with hatred. They looked at her with wonder, and maybe even respect. As dawn rose, soft light touched the snow, turning it gold. Arya sat near the window, watching the sky where her people had vanished. Ethan joined her, sitting quietly beside her. Do you think they'll come back? She asked softly. Maybe, he said, but next time they'll know not everything human is cruel. She smiled faintly. You showed me that. He looked at her, his voice gentle. You showed me too, that even in all the pain, kindness still matters. The sunlight warmed their faces. Two broken souls from different worlds, one human, one alien, had changed each other in a universe built on fear. And somewhere far above, beyond the cold stars, perhaps someone was watching, realizing that the smallest act of humanity could end a war. Because sometimes, it doesn't take an army to change the galaxy, just one human heart brave enough to care.